Did Catalonia declare independence or not? Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy giving the leader in Barcelona until next Monday to answer, dangling the threat of direct rule from Madrid. Rajoy reacting to a Catalan president's speech where Carles Puigdemont first pledged to respect, quote, the will of the people in the wake of that banned October 1st referendum, and then declared suspended independence, offering dialogue. Has it all gone too far for that? It's more than the crackdown by Madrid and the mutual accusations of lawbreaking. It's long-brewing hostility stoked by the financial crisis, barbs about money, elitism, linguistic and cultural rivalry. Catalans themselves are divided over whether the region belongs in Spain or not. To resolve Spanish democracy's worst crisis in 4 decades, critics draw parallel between Rajoy and Puigdemont, both at the head of minority governments, both at the head of parties dogged by repeated corruption scandals, both interested in their own political survival. Will they now rise to the occasion? Today in the France 24 debate, we're asking if Spain can keep it together. With us from Madrid, Tony Roldan Mones of the Ciudadanos Party, representing Barcelona in the Spanish Parliament. Thank you for joining us. We also want to thank, from Barcelona, comedy writer and pro-independence activist Oriol de Balanzo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
From Brussels, we're joined by Carlos Mascarell Villar of the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. Thank you for being with us.
Hello, thanks for the invitation.
And we welcome back Spanish attorney Eduard Salsas, who is split because you're half Catalan and half Castilian.
Indeed.
All right. And we'll be asking some lawyerly advice on what's going on shortly. The France 24 debate on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. Up to now, the Spanish Prime Minister had never mentioned Article 155 by name. That's the provision in the Spanish Constitution that allows direct rule. This Wednesday, he mentioned it, and he raised the heat with the backing of the opposition socialists in Parliament.
The
Cabinet has agreed to formally ask the Catalan government to confirm whether it has declared independence, given the deliberate confusion concerning its implementation. This request is an indispensable prerequisite to any action the government may take in connection with Article 155 of our Constitution. Its objective is to provide our citizens with the clarity and security that a question of such importance requires.
Eduard Salsas, this is an article of the Constitution of 1978 that's never been implemented in the past. What does it mean, him saying that today?
To implement Article 155, Mariano Rajoy needs to prove to the Senate, which is the chamber of the parliament which has to approve the implementation of Article 155, he needs to prove that there has been a violation of the law by a regional government or an attempt against the general interest of Spain. By asking this clarification, Mariano Rajoy is trying to establish whether or not the declaration that we had yesterday was a violation of the laws or an attempt against the general interest of Spain or not. If it was not, which I believe was the case, he cannot trigger Article 155, and therefore he cannot have direct rule on the Catalan government.
Why do you think it's not the case?
Well, probably it's because I'm a lawyer, so I have this terrible habit of, reading exactly what people say, and I didn't read or hear in the speech from the Catalan president that he was declaring an independence.
It's a bit of a gray area, isn't it? Because he says we have the legitimate right to be independent, but I'm suspending the declaration for now.
He acknowledged that the Catalan people, according to him, that the Catalan people have the right to declare independence. There's a law which was passed in the Catalan parliament which said that we will organize a referendum, and with the solution, with the decision, we will implement it. If the yes won, so by this law, he had to implement and to declare independence. And what he said is that he is suspending the implementation of this law, which means he acknowledges the result of the referendum of October the 1st, and he won't apply for now this law, which will oblige him to declare independence. And all this means that yesterday's declaration was a political declaration, but it has no legal consequence whatsoever. It has no legal value. It's just a political statement.
Tony Roldan Moniz, you agree?
Hi, I do agree that nothing of what the Catalan government has done in the last month and a half has any legal validity, right? Because they just jumped over the legal procedures to do a referendum or to do a vote or to change the constitution, which would be the natural, normal procedure. They passed two laws that were not recognized. They are suspended by the Constitutional Court. And what happened the other day, what happened yesterday, was basically a continuation of the same thing. At the end, the political message was that they continue to blackmail the government. They just say, look, unless I give you a few more days, but unless you do what I want in the terms I want outside the law and outside the constitution that makes us all equal, and it's the only place where we can talk, then I will throw you and throw myself into the abyss, right? And that was the message they sent yesterday. It's true that they opened up with this extra few days a new opportunity for dialogue. I just think that they need to do more. I just think that probably these interlocutors are not valid anymore after what they've done, after having fractured.
So you're recusing the interlocutors, in other words, the separatists. This doesn't look very good seen from abroad, where we don't follow the nitty-gritty and all the details of Spanish politics. What do we see? We see a Catalan president who makes a speech offering dialogue and a Spanish prime minister who issues an ultimatum. It doesn't look great.
An ultimatum is what they did. They said, look, unless you jump the laws and accept my unilateral way, you will, I will just declare. I will just declare. I'm hearing.
Sorry, yeah, we're hearing another voice there. Hopefully we can have that corrected. Go ahead, Tony Roldan Moniz.
No, what I was saying is that the blackmail comes from the Catalan unilateral way, which doesn't represent the whole of Catalonia. It's just a group of radical nationalists that have decided to go a unilateral way without having enough, a majority big enough, even to change the relationship with Spain within the constitutional framework, which is the Statute of Autonomy. You would need 2/3 of the Spanish, of the Catalan parliament, and they just have a bit more than 50% of the MPs, and they just decided to go the unilateral way. That doesn't work anywhere. In Germany, if Bavaria decided to go the unilateral way, the German Constitutional Court, which is exactly what they did when they asked for the right of self-determination, they would suspend it, and then they would try to dialogue and within the law, not threatening the federal government with a unilateral way that, by the way, goes against all the European spirit, all the path of European integration, and everything we've managed to build throughout the last 30 years. There's plenty of room within the Constitution to amend it, and also to improve.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the amendments to the Constitutions in a moment. Just for our viewers to be clear, let's listen carefully again to what Carles Puigdemont said on Tuesday, effectively stating it's, well, yes to independence, but not yet.
The government and myself, we propose Parliament suspend the effects of the Declaration of Independence to undertake talks in the coming weeks, without which it is impossible to reach an agreed solution.
Oriol de Belanzo, first of all, should he have gone the whole way and declared independence?
Well, I don't know. I've listened to really strong words, and your introduction just said that the Catalan society is divided. I must say it is not. I mean, there's some Catalan people that want independence, some other that doesn't want, and some other that doesn't give a damn. At least we are not more divided than France between their variety of political sides, or UK when they decided to do a referendum in Scotland. And another thing, I've listened that Carles Puigdemont has done some sort of blackmail. It's really strange when you have like 10,000 policemen from Spain, the Spanish police, in your streets, and you have the menace of going to prison, that menace that one member of the Popular Party did the day before yesterday, and they are menacing to you with prison. You have all these policemen in the streets, and you are blackmailing the Spanish government. That's really, really strange.
Okay, so both sides, Oriel, accusing each other of blackmail. Both sides accusing each other of having. Both sides saying they have the rule of law on their side. Let me ask you my question again. Should Carles Puigdemont have declared independence?
Yes, for sure. For sure. I think it was the only clear and big option that he had. Because as we've seen so far, the Spanish state, not only the Spanish government of Mariano Rajoy, but also the socialist opposition, doesn't want any kind of parley about a referendum, which could be clearly legal inside this constitution. So the thing
are you
is
disappointed?
that the only option that yeah, I am. I think that the best option that Carles Puigdemont had yesterday was to declare independence, just to be clear, and as a point of depart for any negotiation with Mariano Rajoy, and to have really a move from the European Union, who obviously doesn't want any change in Spain, any change in France, any change in the UK if they could.
Oh, we seem to have a sound issue there with Barcelona. Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
Okay,
It's back.
Okay, every time that something changes, the economy goes maybe bad. So it's that clear that the EU, the European community or the European Union doesn't want any change. But things change, doesn't happen.
Okay, so Oriol de Balanzo
nice.
thinking that Catalonia should have declared independence on Tuesday. Eduard Salsas, you've heard two reactions there from two Catalans diametrically opposed on this issue,
which is nice.
Which is nice, but the other question is now. So what happens in the wake of what we've seen out of Madrid today? Was it an escalation we heard from Madrid, or is it kind of a holding pattern?
Well, Mariano Rajoy, I believe that he wanted to win some time, to buy some time until Monday, just to make up a last-minute strategy, because he didn't expect yesterday's speech from the president of Catalonia. Yes. I believe that this is the typical case that we see in mediations, where both sides have very strong positions, and we need just to calm down for a bit, just release a little bit of testosterone, and let's just think it carefully. And there was one party asking for dialogue. I believe that the Spanish side should also offer this dialogue, and both parties at least should make the effort to sit down and try to reach an agreement on something.
All right, I was listening. Let me turn to Carlos Mascarell Villar on this, who's in Brussels. Carlos, we heard Oriol de Balanzo say Puigdemont should have declared independence Tuesday. What say you?
Hello, thanks for the invitation, and sorry, I had a bad connection. In my view, he shouldn't. I don't think that was a solution for different reasons. The problem is that even if he would have liked to do that, you need to have the control of the territory and also finances in order to implement it. So the problem of Catalonia was that even if they would have liked to do that, you need to demonstrate the international community that you can control that. So in my view, the strategy of the Catalan government was to leave everything to a potential international mediation. So trying to show that they were declaring the independence, or in the case of what happened yesterday, pseudo-declaring the independence and suspending it immediately after, to provide or to contentate their electorate at the Catalan level, at the internal level, but at the same time showing the international community that they were ready to have a dialogue.
Are you talking political strategy here,
view,
Carlos? You're talking political strategy, but what's the right thing to do?
Mm-hmm. I think, in my view, the right thing to do is to try to de-escalate the conflict. The conflict should be de-escalated, and both sides should be ready to renounce to their maximum aspirations in order to reach an agreement. A solution could be to try to achieve international mediation. However, I don't think that in this case the Spanish government is ready to do that. But today there has been a proposal to reform the constitution. We don't know whether a majority of the Catalan people would accept that reform, because we will need to see it. But the problem is that with the declaration of unilateral independence on the table, even if suspended, and a potential application of Article 155, you have measures which do not de-escalate. So in this case, if we really want to start talking in a serious and rigorous manner, they should renounce to implement Article 155, and the Catalan government should renounce also to the unilateral declaration of independence. There, we could start talking about which are the common grounds to start a dialogue between the Spanish government and the Catalan government. And a solution for that would be to go back to Estatut de Catalunya of 2006, which was something fully supported by a majority of the Catalan people, that could be a starting point for a negotiation in which maybe there would be a ground for the Catalan authorities and the Spanish government to sit down. Then we need to see whether that would be acceptable for the people or not.
We're going to pick up on those points and get the views of the rest of the panel on possible ways to, as you say, de-escalate. When we come back, you're watching the France 24 debate. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. After that suspended independence declaration from the leader of Catalonia, we've had the response from Madrid this Wednesday, and we're talking about it with a member of parliament representing Barcelona from the Catalan-rooted party, Ciudadanos, Toni Roldan Monés. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back as well to Oriol de Balanzo, pro-independence activist, comedy writer. Joining us from Brussels, Carlos Mascarell Villar of the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. And here in the studio, we're joined by attorney Eduard Salsas. Welcome back to all four of you. Just before the break, we heard one of our guests, Carlos Mascarell Villar, talk about how perhaps one of the solutions could be reform to the Constitution. And it was something that was brought up when the Prime Minister sat down with leaders of some of the other major parties represented in Parliament, including the opposition socialists.
The agreement I have with the head of the government is to take the political route, the route towards constitutional reform. First, with the establishment of a commission of territorial policy for 6 months. And after that, with the opening of a constitutional commission to once and for all address the reform and modernization of our autonomous state, if possible, with constitutional reform.
Toni Roldan Monés, do you agree with the concept of sitting down and a revision of the Spanish Constitution? When we were in Barcelona last week, people on both sides said it's long overdue, a revision of that Constitution.
Yeah, I fully agree with that position. I think that that's the way to solve the problems within the regions. There is obviously structural historical problem with Catalonia, but there are also a number of other problems in terms of regenerating the political life, in terms of having more depoliticized institutions. There are a number of things we can do. But let me clarify one thing to the audience, because I was a bit surprised when I was listening to Oriol just a few minutes ago, when he said that there are no fractures in Catalonia right now. Look, now basically I have stopped talking to some of my friends. In every family, this has become a complete taboo issue. Between neighbors, there are fights. The streets I've never seen, I'm 34 years old, never seen the level of tension and fracture in the society. There is a massive division. Particularly unionist parties in Catalonia are suffering a lot. They are signaled. They are accused of of boycotting the sort of unilateral way that some sort of Catalan elite of nationalists is bringing. My colleagues there go with guards to protect themselves. It's a very complicated solution, and I would like everyone to understand where we are. It's probably the most difficult moment we have since '78. And one more thing, as regards to also Oriol's view on the unilateral way. Look, we're talking about a referendum that is pretty much a referendum of a banana republic with 90% yes vote, with no control, no control whatsoever in terms of neutrality, no electoral board, no independence of supervision, no census. Basically, some people voted 3-4 times. How can, in total, 35% of participation? Is it really the way you think you need to go in the European Union in the 21st century, to go unilaterally and break up a 500 years relationship with sort of democracy and legitimacy? I think the Catalan nationalists have managed to build a big lie, and out there is not being well understood. I'm as Catalan as Oriol, and I have the same rights, and those rights are defended in the Constitution. And that's the way we can talk to each other, not by imposing the views of a nationalist, which is, by the way, very similar to the populist narrative that other movements in Europe have had throughout the recent years, in the UK, also in France, and in other countries.
Oriol de Balanzo?
Wow, I clearly don't share this point of view. First of all, I must say to my colleague here today that if they want another kind of referendum, they can try it. I mean,
we had one.
We had
one in 2015. There was a regional election, and you lost.
I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born on the last referendum.
No, in 2015.
Anyway, let me finish. Let me finish it. Okay. I don't know. You put the situation like as if it was violent or something. I mean, some people clearly pro-independence, some other doesn't. But we can talk about it. The only thing about the Spanish nationalism, because it's the only nationalism that we have here, because clearly the independence movement has grown up from the left to the left, and when they have abandoned the nationalism side of the
really the only nationalism is on the Spanish side, you say, but when we were in Barcelona, we heard a lot of people
the huge nationalism
who belittled people from other parts of Spain, saying we're the ones who work hard.
Yeah,
they're the lazy ones. Why should we pay for them?
No. There's not a lot of people that say that now. I mean, what I mean is that there's no such two-side paths like if we were living in Northern Ireland, that we have families that are Catholic and the other one are Protestants, and we have always been like this. I mean, me myself, I was an independentist a while ago, and so I just learned that the only thing I can do for my country, and the only thing I can do to change also Spain, is to become independent. That's it. And it's not a big thing. I mean,
If I can jump
country
in,
is
please.
split, and it's okay. And the thing is that we have the same problem with Tony and me, in the base is that the big question is been always the same. It's Catalonia has the right to decide if they want to be independent or not. If we agree that yes, we can find a way. If Catalonia doesn't have this self-determination right, then there's nothing to talk.
All right, Carlos Pascual Vilar, let me ask you your view on this, because you heard there Tony Roldan Moniz allude to the 2015 regional election where pro-independence parties got 46% of the vote.
Yeah, hello. My personal opinion is true that in terms of the legitimacy that the current Catalan government has, it's not strong enough in front of the international community to declare independence unilaterally. That's my personal view. However, and this is probably because the Spanish government didn't allow the Catalans to go into a referendum in where you have a unique question. The electoral law, for example, which overrepresents nationalist parties, of course, had an effect on the number of seats in the parliament. However, that was the political choice of the Spanish leaders not to allow to have a referendum in order to have a unique questions and see which is the amount of support that in Catalonia independence has or it doesn't have, because we cannot have a proper referendum with guarantees. And this brings me to respond a bit to what Tony has said. I agree that the international community and observers of the referendum have said that the guarantees were not there on the referendum of the 1st of October. However, this was because the Spanish government has done everything to block that this referendum was held under good conditions. So it is a bit of political irresponsibility or a lack of respect to those that were injured and that who participated. We need to remind.
Okay, so where do we go? Where do we go now, Carlos? Where do we go now? We've heard that flat rejection from Madrid, not just from the government, but also from opposition parties for outside mediation. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my view is that both sides contributed to the escalation. There's something that is clear, is that there is a majority of the Catalan people that wants to change its relationship with Spain. There is an 80% of the Catalans who want a different relationship. Some want independence and some others, probably a big majority, want a federalization of Spain. The problem there, and this is why the Spanish government has been the first contributor to the escalation. Sorry, the first responsible has been the Spanish government. No, but it's not a matter of vote. What I'm trying to explain is that there was an escalation because the Spanish government has been unable to propose any solution since 2006. There was the political will of the people who wanted a different status for Catalonia within the framework of the constitution. Then the problem is that without a political response to solve that situation, of course, the most radical independentist party and coalition has gone into power and has decided to avoid to go through the constitutional framework in order to do a unilateral view. So in that sense, the solution is to try to de-escalate, to renounce to the unilateral declaration of independence, to renounce to the implementation of Article 155, and to put again a Statute of 2016, so the main constitution of the Catalans, on the table as a ground in order to start negotiating. Right. And there we will see what it can be given by one side and by the other. And if possible, if there is an agreement in order to have a legal referendum, that would be also a good solution.
Eduard Salsas, it's only Wednesday. Any signs of that de-escalation that Carlos is talking about after a day that's seen, well, an ultimatum by Madrid to the Catalan leader to clarify his stance?
I think that it's true that both sides, there's a lot of tension. I mean, on the sense of publicly, in private, there are some contacts which are being made between both sides, because it's true that they need to de-escalate this situation. I totally agree with Mr. Mascarell that both sides need to renounce to some of them of their claims. And
But if they talk themselves into a corner at this point,
well, publicly,
when you hear this flat rejection, for instance, of mediation.
Well, they say it now because tomorrow is the Spanish National Day. So basically, Mariano Rajoy cannot say that he's going to negotiate something that he has been denying for months or years, that he would never negotiate an agreed referendum with the Catalans. And the day before the National Day, he cannot say that he's going to negotiate this referendum. It is true that the unilateral declaration of independence, it's something that it's not acceptable from an international point of view. We could have a very long discussion, legal discussion on this, but from an international point of view, it is not possible. On the other hand, the implementation of Article 155, as things stand now, from a legal point of view, it cannot be implemented either because there's no violation of the law which would justify the intervention of the Spanish government. So basically, it's a good starting point. But let's go forward to the end. I mean, at the end of the day, we have 80% of the Catalan people who want to vote about their relationship with the rest of Spain. And it appears to me rather unavoidable that at some point the Catalans will vote something on referendum. And it is somehow puzzling to hear, and I would say my MP, because I vote in Barcelona, my MP who represents the Ciudadanos party, saying, well, we totally agree on reforming the constitution. And here I am talking not as a lawyer, but as a Catalan and Spanish and voter in Spain. And I'm saying, well, what have you done until now? Because we have been seeing demonstrations, independentist demonstrations for the last 7 years, rallying hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, and nothing has been done. Not one single move. And then today, the day after this pseudo declaration of independence of yes or no, then they say, we're going to open a commission to study the reform of the constitution. Well, it's maybe too late for that.
Tony Roldan Mones, is it too late?
No, I don't think in politics it's ever too late. A number of comments as regards to the things we've said. On the referendum issue, we did vote. There was a regional election, and the regional election was taken by the pro-independence parties as a plebiscite for secession. And they said, look, if we get more than 50% of the votes, so. Well, if I may finish. They say if we get more than 50% of the votes, we will. If we don't get more than 50% of the votes, we won't go ahead. And they did get, I think, 47%. They did get a majority of the seats because of the electoral system that Carlos was explaining before. So basically, I mean, there are other ways. Unfortunately, we have a constitution like France, like Germany, like Italy that has this thing that says that the sovereign people of the country are all the country. Until we change that, it's difficult to find other ways. I agree with the frustration that was expressed by the last speaker in the debate. I think Spain has been terrible. I think the government of Rajoy should have done much more years ago. But there are many ways of doing more. Not only to Catalonia, to Spain, basically to reform, to have less corruption, to have more modern institutions. And also, we've been always open to discuss, unfortunately we didn't exist 2 years ago nationally, to discuss the financing system, etc. But let me tell you one thing before I finish. I've been negotiating 2 budget deals already in Parliament. Spain is an extremely decentralized country, extremely federal already, de facto. The Catalans manage their health system, their education system, their policies, unemployment, and they even have the prison system. They have their own police. Look, there is not much more in terms of autonomy that you will get. It's one of the most autonomous regions in the world. So let's be clear. I think everyone is buying.
You have all the right.
I can respond to that.
Or
If I
No, I mean, you have all the right to want more. And I think the first thing I want to say is always have an optimistic lawyer on your side, as we have today, because I think it's a good start point. And the other thing is that today they have offered, or the Pedro Sanchez, the leader of the Socialists, had offered like a sort of reform, to reform, has offered himself to reform the Constitution. And to reform a Constitution is like doing works at your house. It's just a thing. It can be nice, or it can be the worst idea in your life. I mean, you have to say what you want to do when you reform that Constitution.
Carlos Mascarell Vilar,
your point.
Yeah. Now, on my view, the problem, and I agree with Tony on this, that Catalonia has already won, is one of the regions probably in the world with more autonomy. However, what I don't really get is Ciudadanos has not even proposed one single political solution to that. They have very timidly and very slowly and very not shouting that much said that Article 155 should be applied and that elections in Catalonia should be, that the president should call for elections. So there has not been really a political will from Ciudadanos to solve that through a political way. In the second hand, the problem there is that both sides are on their side. There is not a common ground in which to have an agreement, and it is not true that in the past, that these days there is a lot of tensions. Until maybe 2 weeks ago, there was not that much tension, and Tony knows that it was perfectly possible to live and speak in Catalan and in Spanish in Catalonia. So I think we need to say the truth there.
All right, lots of reactions on the hashtag.
The escalation of tension has gone higher on his highest point when we've seen the Spanish police beat people. That had made the change. The 1st of October, we've seen something that no one thought that was possible. That is police repression against the people who wanted to vote, which is really strange in a European country. I mean, the people that went to the polling stations, which were from Catalonia, but also were born outside Catalonia and other regions of Spain, other regions of the world, that wanted to vote yes or no, or vote anything, they only wanted to vote. And what they found in the polling station was violence, police violence. So we are now in a great moment of repression, but so a great moment of propaganda and repression, which seems an album from the Clash.
Propaganda and repression. A lot of reactions on the hashtag F24 debate. One here, Catalan separatism is yet another twisted version of national populism, attacking European values. Also, another one talking about the anxiety reflected in the EU position on the Catalan referendum, which will abjure any mediator role unless requested by Spain. And that brings us back, if you will, to the climate in Catalonia. 7 years ago, before the High Court in Madrid rejected parts of a new autonomy status for the region, nobody predicted it would come to this. A banned referendum, defiance, a crackdown, regional police standing idle, or in one instance captured on social media squaring off against national police at a polling station in Girona. And then there was that press briefing Monday where the spokesperson for Mariano Rajoy's Popular Party called Puigdemont and his number two, Oriol Junqueras, 21st century coup plotters, and alluded to the 1934 arrest of then Catalan leader Luis Companys shot 6 years later by the Franco regime.
I believe that history should not be repeated. Let's hope that nothing is declared tomorrow, because perhaps whoever declares independence will end up with the same fate as the person who announced it 83 years ago.
Now, in fairness, Tony Roldan Monés, the PP tried to backtrack a little on that statement afterwards. But there is this climate of us versus them that's felt where you are in Madrid, with people waving the Spanish flag. Can it be de-escalated in the current climate right now between citizens within the country?
Yeah, I mean, look, as regards to this Pablo Casado comment on Luis Companys, I think it's extremely unfortunate. I think also violence is extremely unfortunate. I wanted to make a point. Like, imagine, and I ask the moderator here, imagine that Macron all of a sudden has a rise of pro-independence in Corsica, and all of a sudden these people say, look, I just ignore what the Constitution establishes, and I decide to go unilaterally. Look, probably the first mandate of Macron would be to defend the Constitution, to defend the rights and obligations of every citizen, which is the first mandate of the government, and then to defend also territorial unity, as long as no law says something different. There is no democracy without law, and that's something that needs to be understood, and I think everyone understands, besides the Catalan nationalists. On the second hand, I wanted also to comment on Carlos' comment, which I think it was Carlos or the other speaker. I think you can. You said that Ciudadanos hasn't offered much in this time. Look, I think we've done a number of things. I've been proposing daily change in the financing system. We've been negotiating that in a place, by the way, where the Catalan president didn't come, to improve the financing system, where there is, I think, plenty of room for improvement. We've been talking about investments. I've negotiated myself an increase in investment in the infrastructure, which is the Mediterranean corridor.
And how about in the tax system, having the same deal that the Basque region has?
Look, the Basque, there is a fundamental problem here, which is that Catalonia is 20% of GDP, right? If you give the same sort of deal than the Basques have, which is basically a privileged system, which I disagree with, then it's not sustainable. It's simply not sustainable. You need a solidarity contribution of the Catalans for a while, until we do proper structural reforms and the rest of Spain also manages to go and to growth and to grow properly. And last thing,
we're almost out of time. Eduard Salsas, just a word to wrap here. Is it going to escalate further between now and Monday?
Well, I hope not, and I think that unofficially both parties will start to de-escalate. It's interesting. This could a financial agreement solve this situation? Well, I don't think that at this point it's all about the money. There's something else, and we haven't heard from the unionist side a clear proposition about what should we do. And at the end of the day, it's probably the only solution is just like to evacuate all this tension and all this passion that we've seen in this debate by a referendum, and the party which wins just will take it and will implement its option.
All right, about more than the money, you say. Eduard Salsas, I want to thank you. I want to thank Tony Roldan Monez for being with us from Madrid. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Oriol de Belanzo in Barcelona and Carlos Mascarell Villar in Brussels. Thank you so much for joining us here in the France 24 debate.